H.R.
151, the Equal Representation Act. The clerk will please designate the bill.
H.R. 151, the Equal Representation Act, a bill to require a citizenship question on the decennial census, to require reporting on certain census statistics, and to modify apportionment of representatives to be based on United States citizens instead of all persons.
Without objection, the bill shall be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Without objection, so ordered. The chair recognizes himself to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute. The clerk will please designate the amendment.
An amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 151 is offered by Mr. Comer of Kentucky.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read, and the substitute will be considered as original text for the purposes of further amendment. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for a statement on the bill and amendment. H.R. 151, the Equal Representation Act, ensures federal representation is determined by Americans only. The bill does two simple things. First, the bill requires the U.S. Census Bureau to include a citizenship question on the 10-year census questionnaire. Second, the bill directs that this information be used to ensure fair representation by requiring the Census Bureau to only include citizens in the apportionment base. My amendment in the nature of a substitute simplifies the citizenship question to be asked on the census questionnaire, same as what passed in the House last Congress. Are you a citizen of the United States? Yes or no? That's it. By requiring this question, the United States government will be able to collect accurate data on the makeup of our population. The Census Bureau currently estimates the non-citizen population using survey data from the census-administered American Community Survey. But that data is not based on the entire population. It's only an estimate and suffers from large margins of error. In the past, opponents of a citizenship question have raised concerns that such a question will discourage participation in the census. The theory being that some individuals will be reluctant to respond to the census, especially if they do not have a lawful immigration status. My amendment in the nature of substitute does not require respondents to indicate what immigration status they have or any other related demographic information. Plenty of non-citizens enter this country legally, for example, using a green card or a student visa. We just want to know, very simply, are you a citizen or a non-citizen? It's an easy question, it's not confusing, and it does not reveal anything about an individual's specific immigration status. Although the census will count and enumerate all individuals residing in the United States, this bill would ensure that only citizens are included in the apportionment base from which representation in Congress is determined. According to American Community Survey estimates, there are over 21 million non-citizens residing in the United States and the District of Columbia. These are not naturalized citizens and they cannot vote in federal elections. Non-citizens comprise nearly 7% of the total population of the United States. But non-citizens are not evenly distributed among the states, and some states end up with greater representation in Congress based on a higher concentration of non-citizens. This dilutes the one-person, one-vote principle for citizens in states with fewer non-citizens. It is clear that Congress can and should ensure a fair apportionment based on equal representation of citizens. I thank Representative Edwards, a former member of this committee, for his leadership on this issue. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I recognize the ranking member for his statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, as House Democrats, oppose what we believe is an unconstitutional bill in front of us. The bill attempts to exclude non-citizens from being counted when drawing congressional districts, which clearly violates the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment is clear. It states that seats in the House of Representatives must be based on counting, quote, the whole number of persons in each state, end quote, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. Now, the U.S. has done this since the amendment was adopted in 1868. Now, during debate on the amendment, Congress talked about using only the number of citizens, but they rejected that idea. This bill also attempts to add a question about citizenship status to the census. We know this question will destroy the accuracy of the census and devastate numerous communities across the country. Non-citizens will avoid answering the census, leading to undercounts across the country. Now, an undercount means loss of federal funding for vital programs like schools and healthcare, diminished political representation, and inaccurate data for urban planning and economic development. This bill is unconstitutional, and we should all oppose it, and we yield back.
Ranking member yields back. Any other members seek recognition? The question is now on the amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I oppose this blatantly unconstitutional bill that violates the 14th Amendment. Putting a citizenship question on the census would increase fear in immigrant communities and decrease the number of responses, undermining the entire purpose of the census in the first place. America's democracy values representation, and it's important that we have a census that is actually on point, since the population count determines how many U.S. representatives each state gets. Congress is supposed to represent everyone, every human, every person, but this bill dilutes that power for our residents. This bill would have huge financial consequences, as census data guides the allocation of $2.8 trillion every year. So I'm fighting for my district, for Central Floridians, and for the state of Florida to get the tools that we need to succeed, not fewer. If enacted, this bill would cause states with large shares of undocumented immigrants, like the state of Florida, to see significant federal funding cuts. This means all Floridians see our public goods close and fall into disrepair, such as roads and transit systems, schools, hospitals, veterans care, and disaster preparation. Republicans in Congress claim to respect the Constitution, but to respect it, you got to read it. And like the ranking member just said, it says very blatantly in Section 2 of the 14th Amendment that we count the whole number of persons in each state. No matter what this president says, no matter what Republicans in Congress say, a person is a person. Immigrants are people, and they should be counted in the census. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Any other members seek recognition? Chair recognizes Mr. Biggs from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this bill, and I just wanted to say that we're at odds here. Obviously, we have very different takes on this, and I believe that this bill actually is in line with the 14th Amendment, Section 2. Districts with large non-citizen populations overwhelmingly elect Democrats. That's just the way that is. Districts with high citizenship rates overwhelmingly elect Republicans. That's fact and data. Of the 24 congressional districts where at least 1 in 5 adults is not an American citizen, only 4 elected a Republican in 2022. And meanwhile, in the 54 districts where non-citizens make up less than 2% of adults, only 5 are represented by Democrats. Pattern is not accidental. Non-citizen populations cluster heavily in deep blue urban areas, inflating population totals and giving Democrat districts more representation in Congress than the citizen voting population truly warrants. Non-citizens cannot vote. Take a look at Section 2. The basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear in the whole number of male citizens, etc. These are things in Section 2 of 14 that are basically the arguments that were made in that convention are borne out by the facts I'm giving you now. Non-citizens cannot vote, but they are counted the same as voting citizens during apportionment under the current scheme. That means districts with fewer actual voters gain more political power despite having fewer Americans participating in elections. And let's just consider my home state. After years of litigation, 15 Arizona counties, and we only have 15 counties. We've got, some of our counties are bigger than states, bigger than New Jersey, etc. But these counties are verifying and removing up to 50,000 registrants who never provided proof of U.S. citizenship. There are up to 50,000 people in my state alone who have failed to provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Imagine that number nationwide. That doesn't even include the number of people being counted in our census who are here illegally. Asking this question is common sense. These individuals should never have been on the rolls in the first place, and H.R. 151 strengthens and accelerates citizenship verification, ensuring that states like Arizona can clean up the voter rolls before ballots are cast, not after. If 50,000 potential non-citizens can be discovered in one state, my state, a state of about 7.5 million people, imagine the scale nationwide. My job is to protect the voting rights of Arizona citizens, not to enhance political power for states that encourage illegal immigration. This should not be controversial. Only Americans should decide American elections, and that means starting at the apportionment process, and that means starting at the census process. And so with that, Mr. Chairman.
Would the gentleman yield for a question?
Who's asking?
Frost.
Oh, hey, sure, go ahead and ask a question.
Well, because the whole first part of your argument had to do with the fact that somehow this helps Democrats. So there's a political issue here. But I'm just curious what you have to say about the fact that Donald Trump, as we speak, is actually creating more undocumented people in this country by doing things like ripping away TPS, right? For hundreds of thousands of Haitians in my district and in my state.
So here's the response to the question. I don't think he's creating more illegal aliens by taking away TPS. What does the T in TPS stand for?
He is creating
What is the T?
more undocumented
No.
people.
I answered your question. Answer mine. What does the T stand for?
Temporary protective status.
The T stands for temporary protective class. And here's the deal. Temporary parole status, that's what it stands for. And what that means is we're going to parole you in for a period of time. We have people who have been paroled in for their temporary period of time for more than 20 years. More than 20 years. And they won't go home.
So you're saying...
And I'm suggesting they need to go home.
And
That's
you're
what President
suggesting
Trump. That's what President Trump's suggesting. I think that's what the American people want. And when we get back to this question,
None of the polls show that now.
I'm sorry?
None of the polls show that now. The American people are overwhelmingly against what this president's doing in immigration. In fact, for the first time in history, more people are with us
I'll
in
take
terms
my time.
of
I'll take
making
my
sure.
time back. I was respectful and let you ask your question. I disagree with you. I disagree with your interpretation of what polling is saying. What I'm suggesting to you is this bill corrects an inequity. So let me give you an example. How many people are in Congress from California that shouldn't be here because you overcounted, including apportionment of illegal aliens? By some estimates, it's as high as 7. 7. My state has 9 representatives. Will we lose some? My guess is we might lose one.
The Constitution is clear that we count persons.
Okay, so from now
regardless
on,
of status.
when you're talking, I will interrupt you. Okay, is that fair? You were that rude. You were that rude. You didn't even let me finish my comment. You had to make your point when you can raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like my 5 minutes. Now, while you're doing your 5 minutes, should I just interrupt you all the time? No, I won't, because you know what? I have courtesy and respect, something you lack.
Gentlemen, time's expired. Any further members? Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start by reiterating the fact that this policy is unconstitutional. It was proven unconstitutional and struck down by the Supreme Court when the Trump administration attempted to do this exact thing in Trump's first term. They wanted to erase undocumented people and non-citizens from the census, from our communities, from the requirement that we fund and represent all of our constituents as laid out in the Constitution. And the Supreme Court struck that attempt down. Why would we waste our time trying again? Why would we waste our time trying to pass an unconstitutional policy that is clearly unconstitutional, that is clearly trying to erase the existence of people who are simply here in this country? We can argue immigration policy. We can argue whether we should have more robust asylum processes, paths to citizenship. You know, just yesterday, Secretary Noem suggested a 100% travel ban. No one from any other nation should enter this country. I think it's clear what this administration wants to do to erase people, to deport people to countries they didn't even come from, to attack the Constitution and to use every tool possible to consolidate power, just as my colleague from Arizona said, so that more Republicans can win. We don't just get to play with the Constitution like that. And I am baffled so often in this job because the Republican Party that I grew up with, the role models that I knew in my community, my dad, my faith leaders, folks that I served with in the legislature, Republican members believed so strongly in the Constitution, in the amendments as laid out, in the importance of this document to guide our country forward. And what I hear every day is an attempt to attack and tear down this document that helped craft and stabilize our country since its beginning. It's just not true, Mr. Chair, that adding a citizenship question to the census would not scare anyone. We know that folks in mixed status families, where one is a citizen and one is not, where someone has legal status or someone does not have legal status, those families are much less likely to fill out the census because of their fear. And their fear is warranted because every day across the country, we are seeing folks rounded up on the streets, detained for sometimes hundreds of days, deported to not their country of origin. Some of these people who are U.S. citizens themselves, many of them who have protective status, many of them who have green cards. I have visited with detainees in facilities in my district, and Mr. Frost is right. The American people are against this president's administration policy, this attack on our immigrant community at higher rates than they have ever been before. They believe that Democrats care about people, and that is what we are here to do. We're here to fight for every single person who lives in our country, to make sure they have fair representation, and to make sure that we are funding our states adequately. We're not here to try and rig elections so that more Republicans win. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Crane from Arizona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague just said we're not here to rig elections to make sure that Republicans win more elections. That's exactly what you guys are trying to do. You guys are trying to rig elections. You guys in the last administration let in between 10 to 15 million illegal aliens. I also want to point out that you guys keep referencing the Constitution. I got some Constitution for you. How about Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution? It requires that the federal government protect each state from invasion. That's something clearly you guys did not do while you had the presidency. And now that we have these millions of illegal aliens in this country, we're just simply asking that we put a question on the census, are you an American citizen? And of course you guys don't want to do that, because you know that if we do that and the American people find out exactly how many illegal aliens are in this country and voting, they're going to be as appalled as we see each and every day. And you guys don't want that. And they're not allowed to vote. And you guys try and block every single effort that we make in this House to stop illegal aliens from voting. You guys blocked the SAVE Act as well. That's exactly what this is. You guys are trying to rig elections, and we're trying to stop it. And we're not going to apologize for it. So I'm in full support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would you gentleman yield? Would the gentleman yield to me?
Yeah, I would yield to Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we just heard reference to the Supreme Court and its decision in Commerce versus New York that came out in 2019, as if that was conclusive on the matter. Well, if you're okay with that, then I will accept that, because what the Supreme Court said is you can ask a citizenship question. They said you can. It is constitutionally appropriate. What isn't appropriate is the way that the Commerce Department didn't adhere to the APA. That's what they said. Said you can ask the citizenship question, but you're going to have to deal with the APA, the Administrative Procedural Act. And if you do what you did then you got a problem, because they didn't really adhere to it. They didn't have a great reason. They didn't follow the rules. They didn't follow the timelines. But the majority opinion there said you can ask this question. So this bill is actually constitutional if you're accepting the rationale of the Supreme Court, and it's affirming in part and reversing in part, which is what happened in 2019. I'll yield back to the gentleman from Arizona.
I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Any other questions? Seeing none, The question is now on the amendment in the nature of a substitute. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The question is now on favorably reporting H.R. 151 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Recorded vote is ordered as previously announced. Further proceedings on the question will be postponed.